Do you feel like the same things just keep happening to you and you're like, oh my gosh, the universe hates me. This same thing just keeps happening. Something's always going wrong in my life. If that is the case, then you have some kind of block in one of your chakras. So today I want to talk about blocks in your root chakra. Your root chakra is at the base of your spine and it is your stability. It is what you need to be like rooted into the ground. Imagine a tree, like the roots are so deep into the ground so it can grow like so strong and tall and people can climb on it and the wind can smack it and it is going to be rock solid. It is not moving. It is rooted into the ground. So think of yourself as a tree where you have roots coming from you down into the ground. If you have any breakages or, the roots aren't strong, they're not, grasping into the ground tightly, you're going to tip over. And that's exactly what happens when your root chakra is blocked. You have these moments where you feel like you're just falling down and then getting back up, and there's just not stability in your life. Maybe it's relationships, there's no stable relationships. There, you struggle with jobs, just your emotions, like you don't have stable emotions. Maybe you're just freaking out about something or losing your temper. It's because you're not stable in your life. So, if any of this resonates with you, more than likely it's, something with your root chakra. You need to find some stability in your life. So, how do you do that? First, you got to find out what the blockage is. And you really can tap into yourself. Sometimes it starts like at a very young age. There's something that happens when you were, kind of first born, and it gave you this sense of like fear or guilt, and it's just stuck with you and you just have these like highs and lows in your life. And it's a difference between like, yeah, there's always going to be life. We have bad things that happen in our lives, say a car accident or something. That's not like, oh my gosh, my root chakra's not stable. Like there's things that are going to happen that are highs and lows, but you can manage it. It's being able to manage it. It's not having these like crazy outbursts over something happening to you. You are stable. You can handle the storms that are coming at you because you are so rooted into the ground. Calm down, take a, deep breath, and it will be like the first thing that pops in your head. Just ask yourself, do I have a block in my root? It should be very subtle. Yes, a yes or a no. And if you kind of get this, like, oh, yeah, I think I do. Sometimes it could be a feeling. Maybe all of a sudden you can feel it. You could feel it in your stomach when you ask, or you'll just get like a yes, or you'll just get like a no. And once you figure out, like, okay, let's start there. Do I have a block? And if you get a yes, then your next step is, why? Why? Where did this come from? What can I clear? And just ask and kind of wait on a response. And you should get just like a flash of like an image or a feeling, just like a sense of like something that happened to you when you were a kid. So I've done this and all of a sudden I felt like I was being scolded. So just check in with yourself. Ask. Also journaling is a really good way. And I know, I promise you, I hated journaling. When people would recommend it, I would be like, ugh, that is not for me. I have found that it is just such a quick, easy way to release something. So think about it like that. Instead of dreading it and try to push it away. Now, honestly, the more you're pushing away, the reason is because you probably most likely have to do it. And it's what's gonna solve your problem, but you are so resistant to it. So if you feel that resistant when I tell you you should journal, you are more than likely the person that needs to journal. So start off simple, just like write, do I have a block in my root? And just wait, your hand will almost automatically just go with a yes or a no. And then you could say, what did this cause this? And just all of a sudden, maybe a memory will pop up or a person will pop up, and you may ask yourself, like, why is that person popping up? Or why is that memory popping up? Write it down. Um, Again, if you feel like you're really not a journaler, you could just talk yourself through this process. But whatever the first, like, if it's a person, if it's a feeling, if it's a situation, just write it down. And then all you're doing is just kind of like asking another question and another question, just to kind of dig deeper of where did this block come from? So say a person pops up, write it down. Why did this person pop up? What's a feeling that I'm having? Was there like a particular situation? Like, could you imagine yourself in a certain house or room, or like where did it take place? And what you're going to do is just narrow down where this initial feeling happens of why your root is blocked. And whether you're journaling it or talking yourself through it in your head, you just want to kind of, keep digging a little deeper. But once you do get to the root of it and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I know why, I have this initial block, and it could be something as simple as like when you were a child, something happens, like you were told no, and you've just held on to that. So something very important to understand is as kids, we create these stories because parents or adults are typically trying to protect us. They don't want us let us into adult problems, so they try to protect us. So we might see a glimpse of something, but they don't want to talk to us about what we saw. They might shoo us out of the room or yell at us, why did you come in here? Um, or why are you doing that? And you create this whole story in your head as a kid because you're just trying to make sense of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Kids are just going to do that. But what happens is we create this story, and then that story just kind of compounds as time goes on. And we've created kind of like a negative thing, which more than likely we probably got scolded because maybe we walked into an adult conversation that they were trying to keep us from because they didn't want us to be more traumatized. They were doing what they thought was best at the moment. And we took it as, oh my gosh, like I shouldn't have walked in on them. That was all my fault. And then you carry this like guilt around for years. So it really, I mean, when we talk about like going back into trauma, it does not have to be like the most traumatic thing. Don't be too scared to go deep. I mean, it definitely could be something way worse than that. And, we got to cross that bridge when we get there. But a lot of the trauma is not as severe as what we think. We've built this big story in our head, thinking things are like way worse than what it was. And a lot of times it was just adults trying to protect us or doing what the best they thought they had to do at that moment. So, um, keep that in mind and know that some of these stories are just blown up, and all we really need to do is go back to that child, that baby, whatever it was, whatever age we were when this first feeling hit us and stuck with us. Just gotta go back. And so as you're journaling or kind of going through these questions of asking yourself, like, when did I first feel this feeling? Then you want to ask that little child of you. So I would say, like, oh, baby Megan, I'm so sorry that you were just, crying in your crib. What do you need? And I did this for myself, and all of a sudden I could like feel a baby just needed rocked. It just needed rocked. It just needed some comfort. And, you know, as a baby, I don't understand. My mom had 9 kids. She was stretching herself thin everywhere else. So does it mean my mom's a bad mom? Heck no. Whatever that was at that moment, I was not, I was crying and I wasn't getting scooped up. And so I just went back and I imagined rocking, little baby Megan and swaddling her really tight and just letting her know, she's loved, she's comforted, she's safe. And like in my image, she just went back to sleep and she was so comforted and she was fine. And tell the little version of myself, call me back anytime, anytime you need me. And I say, is it okay to go now? And I also always, 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 in these scenarios, say, you should see who you are now. You should see adult Megan. You will be so, so proud of her. And it brings comfort to the little version of myself. It brings, pride to the older version of myself. And I'll start crying. Um, I can sense the emotion releasing from my body. I was able to take care of that child that needed it at that time. And it released from my body. It's removing that block so I don't continue these same patterns as an adult. You can go back and do this any amount of times that you want. I like to check in on myself every so often just to make sure that my chakras are clear, that there's no blockages. I even did it this morning and I was like, how's my root doing? My root chakra. And it was like this, I felt like a stable. And at first I was like, oh, good, it's strong. It feels strong. But then there was just like this tiny tilt. And it was like a stool, a stool that maybe the legs are just like a hair off. And it was just like this tiny little weeble wobble. And I said, okay, I feel strong, but not that strong. Where is this block coming from? And it showed me and my husband, and we were holding hands, and it was just saying, like, I need to work on my marriage. It was not a surprise to me. Sometimes the busyness of taking care of kids and work, we end up putting our spouses not as the top priority, and we kind of lose each other. And me and my husband are very good at always being able to come back and find each other. But this was just like a little reminder that, hey, you're weebling and wobbling a little bit. You two need to come back to each other. And, I was able to go talk to him and he was on the same page of me. Like, yes, we need to make sure we, spend more time together. And we did, and we set a plan and some dates. And I could physically feel already my root chakra being strong and in the ground. And you could do this, with all your chakras. However, I would recommend starting with your root and not going past your root until it is solid. Because if you don't have a solid root, you are building a house on not stable foundation. You don't want your house to tip over. You don't want it to sink into the ground. You know, you have to have a stable foundation. So you want to start with your root chakra. You want to make sure that it's stable. So, get out a journal, just a notebook. And again, if journaling is not your thing, I get it. I have been there. But it really, don't call it journaling then. You're taking notes. You're taking on notes on what comes through you. But take the time. Take the time to take, a few deep breaths, sit there quietly and just see what the first response is when you ask, do I have a block, in my root? And I am available as well. I offer clarity calls. I have the ability of being able to see where blockages are with my third eye. I have a team of spirit guides that help me. I have Archangel Raphael that helps me do healing work with my hands and heal the block right on the spot. I don't want to act like it's just like magical work that, you do have to put work into it. You have to be, one, you have to be ready to release it. People can come to me and they're like, I'm sick of feeling this way, but how sick are you, you of feeling this way? I can tap in to your chakras and I can see that there's a block. And there's been times where people are like, they're not physically doing it, their body is. Their body is pushing me away because they are not ready to release. So if you come to me, you have to mentally be ready to release this trauma and get rid of your old stories because they are. They're just old stories that we created when we were little kids, that we were just trying to make sense of the world. And we've created these stories that gotten so big. And I don't want to diminish trauma that you have gone through because there is some serious trauma that you went through. Um, and that can be healed as well and released. When I talk about some of these stories, sometimes we make a mountain out of a molehill. Just be ready to release and have your guard down, and you have to have an open heart. And I can help, bring these to the surface. So if you aren't able to do it on your own, I'm more than happy to help. Go to megan-mason.com. I hope this helped you and leave a comment if you have questions, if you're trying to do it yourself and you're struggling or need more clarification. I would absolutely love to help. Leave a comment and I'll get back to you. If you want to take that next step and you're like, I need that additional help, I can't do it on my own, I am here. Again, megan-mason.com.